Okay, I have two pieces of fabric that are 5 1/4 by 7 1/2 inches. They're contrasting. You can mix and match, monochromatic. Did this for contrast because this is your finished product, and you see what the contrast does. So the fabric is stitched together, wrong sides together. We're using a scant 1/4 inch seam with about a 2 inch opening on the long side. And I'm just clipping corners so it creates, reduces bulk, and I can make a sharper corner with less fabric in it. And do it to every corner. So we are ready to turn this now. Try to be careful that you don't stretch the opening because it'll give you waves when you want to sew it back together and close it. This opening is a little tighter than some. The other one was 2 1/2 inches. This one is just 2 inches, and it makes a difference. You just have a bigger fight in your hands. Bigger ball. Okay. And I should have finger pressed the opening where the seams would have been had I closed it, but I did not, so I will do that even though it is turned around now, but I'll still finger press it because it does make the sewing the opening go nicer and it's smoother if you have the finger press done. Use whatever you need, skewer or something that'll poke your corners out. Just don't go through them, and don't use the scissors that's going to open on you. Oh, I just clipped mine open. Okay, now I'm just going to fold this down where I should have done this before I turned this over. It is much easier to do it that way, but just fold it down the width of your seam that you used when you sewed your two pieces together. And I just stick 2 pins in to hold it in place. And pick up my thread that has been knotted, and it's a single strand. I start at the left side, run it through just one side of the rectangle, and tuck the tail down in that opening. That way it disappears. And then turn it around. So now I'm sewing from right to left. Go through the fabric on the piece closest to you, come out, grab a little bit on the piece on the other side of your rectangle, draw it tight. If you're hiding it like I am, all you will see is that little loop that connects the two of them, the two pieces of fabric together, and it's almost an invisible job. Take a pin out because then it'll bend for you, make it much easier to manipulate the fabric while you're stitching. Using about 1/2 inch bites of at a time when I'm making a stitch. It's not about doing something to make it a tight seam, it's to hold it together. That's the only purpose of doing this. If you don't do this, you will end up, it could possibly come apart, pull apart for you, which will ruin your butterfly. So takes a little bit of time, but it is worth it in the end because it will give you a more durable product. And I don't
durable and adorable.
Always the plan. Then when you get to where the end of your opening is, I still have one more stitch to take. Knot it. And hide your tail. Go down very close to where the knot is between the fabrics. Check that it didn't come through the other side, and it did big time. This is a batik, so those fabrics have an attitude and aren't easy to push through. I still did not get through the other side without leaving it come out to the outside. There we go. So just pull your needle through. That buries your tail, and snip it off flush with the fabric. Okay, mission accomplished. Now, I based the whole way around this. I do not put a knot on the end. No need to. Leave about a 2-inch tail, but and I'm taking big bites. They're probably 3/4 inch stitches. Purpose is to keep your seam open, that you don't end up with a gully in there. And if you want to press it, you can with an iron. I finger press, and that has done just fine. I've had no issues. And the basting will come out, and you just pull it, and that's why not having a knot in it is the best, because then you just pull that basting out and you don't have to find the knot. And big stitches, it'll be easy to pull out, but it will stabilize the seam for you. And I'm planning to. The goal is to baste about a 1/4 inch from the edge of the butterfly. If it's wonky, it doesn't matter. It's coming out when you're finished with it. Okay, and I'm at the corner here, so I'm just using my needle to sharpen it up a little bit and square it a little more. There we go. Oh boy, there's more embedded here than I thought. Yeah. Okay, now I'm ready to go to the corner. I like to check the next stretch of seam that I'm going to be basting before I take that final bite in the corner, because if this has a gully in it, you're going to have to pull that last stitch out so you can get your seam pulled the whole way to the edge of where you're stitching. This is the longest part of the project, so don't be discouraged. Okay, now before I get to my corner and make that stitch, I'm going to just check that this seam is pulled out and there's not a gully in there. Okay, now this way I believe there is, yep, it was indented and it needs to be pulled out. There we go. And I overlap my basting stitches by just a stitch or two. Do not knot the end, no need to, but leave about a 2-inch tail. Now knot your thread and get it ready for stitching your butterfly. Have it handy for you. Single thread for the butterfly. Finger press the edges. Okay. The long way, you want to fold it in half. Finger press the middle. You want to fold it in half again. So you have 4 folds in this.
Do you want to turn it around and do so the red is on the outside?
I did do want to do it that way. Patricia makes a good point. So the red was on the outside?
The blue was on the outside in the first one.
Okay. Didn't I have the red in the inside?
No, you're doing it again.
Oh, I went the blue up.
Yes,
blue up.
there you
okay.
go.
Blue up. Okay. Fold it in half the long way and fold it in half again the opposite way and finger press. Okay. Pick it up, hold it backwards like you would a book. Take the 3 folds in the back with your left hand, pinch your thumb and finger, pull it apart like that. That's your first fold. And you want to make it even, so it's even here as it is over here. They're the same distance. And finger press. It's a lot of thicknesses of fabric, so it's not going to be a very sharp press, but it is better than not doing it. Take it at the bottom where that point is with your left hand, flip it over. Keeping your finger on there and there's a couple layers of fabric under there. You want to keep that on there. Put a pin at the top in the center of the piece that's facing up. And you'll see that pin is right at the edge of this lower fold. When you do that, you want to keep your fingernail on that point. Pick this up and at the same time push that in, and you're going to have to pull this straight up and then push it down and then adjust this, and it will need to be adjusted a little bit. That pin is supposed to be in the center aside of that fold. These corners must match, and then you just maneuver this a little bit till you have it visually, just eyeball it so it looks even as you can get it. You'll have a little V between the 2 pieces of fabric, and you can then pull your pin out. So you want to keep your hand on this, that nothing springs loose, because when it does, you'll have to refold it, and it does go wonky pretty quick when that happens. But put your finger in the middle. You're on your left hand in the middle of the butterfly, about a 1/2 inch down. Pull this down. You're folding it and pushing this over at the same time. And you have your first wing. Okay? I'm going underneath it. I'm picking everything up together. Right there, that pinch point will hold this butterfly together. You might have a little bit of fabric sticking out the side. It's okay. The other side should be the same way. Sometimes when you fold them, they will not. They'll be even. Just depends on how tight you get your butterfly. Pick up your thread, come in the back, and you're very near the edge, about a 1/4 inch down from that fold. Pull your thread through and go back out again, almost right on top of it. Move to your left about a 1/2 inch. Come in again about a 1/4 inch down from that fold and back out again, almost on top of where you came up. So you have 2 stitches in. That stabilizes that butterfly wing. What you're going to do now is come in the back and catch a tiny bit, tiny bit of fabric at the center. Because you want to keep your butterfly wings free, that they can curve up and are not stitched down. And there again, go straight back out, almost where you came up, so you barely see your stitch. And put 1 knot in it, right down at the fabric. Pick it back up. You're holding it here. Put your finger up here, push it down, and you've created your second wing. And then just manipulate them until you have them looking even. And it suits you. And there again, come in the back, get a tiny bite right at the edge of that wing. Come up through and go back out almost on top of it. See, they're not squashed. They will come up and give the appearance of being free. Go on the inside. Where my thumbnail is, you want to come up with your needle and it doesn't have to be exactly a 1/4 inch, but you want to get enough fabric in there so you're not just getting the edges up here, because that means you're not getting all your folds and it could come apart for you or not keep its shape the way it should. And then move about 1/2 inch to the outer edge of your butterfly. Come up again and go back out. So you have such tiny bites of fabric that I'd be hard pressed to find those stitches in here, but they are doing the job. They are holding this together. So lay it face down and put 2 knots in it. I'm going to do 3. This thread is quite thin. It's very fine. Then I want to hide my tail. Just go in a side of the knot, travel about 1 inch through the fabric, come out. You might want to check that you didn't come through. I did not. Pull your needle through and cut it off. And you can press it a little bit with your fingers and apply it wherever you want to. Looks nice on the little girls' headbands. Do all kinds of things with these creations. There you go.
Thank you, Cheryl from Lebanon Quilters Guild.
You're very welcome.